We go now to Texas Republican Congressman Tony Gonzales, whose district covers more than 800 miles of the U.S.-Mexico border in West Texas. Good morning to you, Congressman.
Good morning, Margaret. Thank you for having me on.
You heard the senator there calling for reform, but as you know, unless the Supreme Court steps in here, Title 42 is going away. What has the federal government told you is coming to your community in the coming days?
Yeah, it is a dire situation in El Paso. As you know, the city declared a state of emergency. This is something you do when there's a hurricane, a fire, an earthquake. What is happening is it's a hurricane of migrants, and everyone is impacted. I represent 823 miles of the southern border. I've seen this exact play out a year ago in Del Rio is what's happening in El Paso now. You know, I was just in El Paso a few days ago, and what I saw at the migrant center, I had never seen before. I had visited the processing center there many times, and what I saw were hundreds, over 500 migrants in a pod. They call them pods, essentially a large cell that holds about 100 people. There's one bathroom, the odor's terrible, and there's 8 pods in there, and so those are the good conditions. Outside, just above the hill, there's a little over 1,000 migrants waiting in outdoor conditions. Not to mention the people that are waiting by the bridge and elsewhere. It's a very dire situation in El Paso.
I just want to say to our viewers who are just looking there at video that you provided to CBS that I believe you shot inside those facilities, and we are relying on that cell phone video in part because CBS News and other media organizations have not been permitted to film recently inside those facilities. Why do you think it is important for the public to see what's happening inside?
Yeah, Margaret, I visited there for a few reasons: to know the ground truth and to be able to share the ground truth. Also, to let the Border Patrol agents that are under incredible amounts of stress know that they're not forgotten. And what I saw shocked me, and I wanted to share that with the world. It's not about politics. It's not about, you know, trying to create this image that isn't there. This is the reality. This is the facts. We're not even at the worst of it yet. Hundreds of people stuck in a small area is not good for everyone. What I also saw was people without socks and jackets. It's going to be, you know, in the teens later this week. So it's a very sad situation all the way around. What I also say to enough with the finger pointing. I don't care how we got here. How do we get out of here? And there's some things that the administration can immediately do to alleviate this stress. Yeah, look, the Biden, this isn't the first time an administration has had a crisis. Every presidency, President Obama, Trump.
Sure, this is a hemispheric surge of migrants, though. This is a hemispheric crisis.
That's true. We've never seen it like this, though. So what are some of the things that the administration can do? Title 42 is gone. We have pushed and pushed and pushed. We're 3 days away from that being gone. What are some of the things that the administration can do? They can re-implement a couple of programs that made sense. PACER and the HARP program. That's essentially having immigration judges at the border, meaning you get your asylum case heard in days, not years. And if you do not qualify for asylum, you get returned back to your country of origin via repatriation flights. You turn that process back on, but there's some enforcement, and all of a sudden the stress gets down. I worry if that doesn't happen, we may be shutting bridges down. The city of El Paso produces $138 billion worth of trade. You shut down one day of that trade and commerce, that's $60 million. It'll impact everybody, not just those that live along the border.
So the Biden administration is asking Congress for $3.4 billion to prepare for this surge. Do you think this will happen? Would you vote for it?
I think it's needed. I think it's absolutely needed. But throwing money at a problem does not solve a problem. You can have an unlimited amount of soft-sided facilities. The problem is enforcing the laws that are already on the books. I'd also argue the bulk of people that are coming over are just trying to live a better life. I get that. They're coming here for economic opportunities. But that doesn't qualify for asylum. Going back to immigration reform, I would love to have a conversation with the administration to work through something. work visas makes sense to me. Pathway to citizenship, amnesty, that is dead on arrival. What people have tried before has no chance of working. You got to start and build out from there.
Okay.
I hosted the president in Uvalde and 6 months ago, and I asked him, Mr. President, I'd love to visit with you about the border. He agreed to it, but yet I've yet to have that conversation with him.
Well, you're putting your finger on the need to get bipartisan legislation done, but I got to be honest with you, a lot of your fellow Republicans are not talking that way. In fact, there's calls, as you know, to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary. We had Michael Chertoff on this program, the Bush-era Homeland Security Secretary recently, a Republican, who said this was a political stunt, a waste, a performance on impeachment, never going anywhere. How do you defend your party prioritizing impeachment when you're saying it is dire crisis in need of substantive legislation?
We certainly have to secure the border. It's very difficult to have the conversation on immigration reform when the border is not secure. But I also say I've hosted nearly 100 members of Congress these past 2 years.
I asked you about impeachment.
Impeaching Mayorkas, our
yes.
president or elsewhere?
What Republican leadership is talking about prioritizing.
Yeah, I think that's going to, hearings are going to absolutely take place. And where that leads us, who knows? But I take impeachment extremely serious. That is in a case of emergency, break glass. But impeachment, that's a long process. The city of El Paso needs help today, not a year from now.
All right, Congressman, good luck to you and your community in the coming days. We'll be tracking everything.
Thank you, Margaret.